Before the walls fell, before stone learnt the shape of fear, there lived a man who had never been taught to run. He was not a king. No banner carried his likeness. No priest carved his name into temple pillars. He was a mason by trade, a builder of gates, foundations, bridges, and walls. His hands knew the weight of stone better than the weight of steel, and his mind understood that strength was never a gift. Strength was assembled, brick by brick, breath by breath, wound by wound. In his youth, he built fortifications for cities that believed themselves permanent. He raised towers for lords who spoke of eternity, sealed gates for councils who trusted iron more than courage, and reinforced halls where commanders planned wars they expected others to survive. But the mason never believed in stone alone. He had seen too many walls crack. He had watched proud battlements split beneath siege engines, watched shields splinter under repeated blows, watched armor buckle around men who thought metal could replace resolve. Every ruin taught him something. Every collapse revealed a hidden weakness. Every broken gate whispered the same lesson. Resistance was not enough. Anything could resist for a moment. To endure was something else entirely. When the first great wars came, he did not flee behind the walls he had built. He stood outside them and watched the enemy approach. Men called him foolish, others called him brave. He accepted neither word. He was studying. He watched how force moved, how blades searched for openings, how arrows followed breath and panic, how siege stones did not merely destroy walls, but tested their patience. Nothing broke all at once. Everything failed in stages. A crack, a bend, a hesitation, a surrender. That was when he understood what no soldier had ever taught him. The strongest defense was not the wall, it was the refusal inside the wall. And so when the line broke for the first time, the mason stepped into the gap. He carried no noble weapon, only a broad shield of layered ironwood, a hammer meant for shaping stone, and a body trained not for speed, but for weight. Men rushed past him in fear. He did not follow. He planted his feet where the breach had opened, and he did not move. They began calling him a guardian after that day. He rejected the title. He did not guard because he was noble. He did not hold the line because he sought honor. He stood because something needed to stand, and everyone else had already chosen motion. The wars stretched beyond seasons, then beyond years. Cities rose and fell under different banners. Kings died and were replaced by sons who inherited maps soaked in blood. Armies advanced, retreated, vanished, and returned with new flags stitched over old ambitions. Through it all, the Guardian remained. He was never the fastest on the battlefield, never the strongest in the training yard. He did not win duels through flourish or dominate enemies with fury. He learned instead the language of impact. Each blow taught him. A spear thrust revealed the weakness of overreach. A mace strike showed how force could be swallowed through the legs. Arrows taught him the value of breath held at the right moment. Fire taught him that panic killed faster than flame. He studied every wound. His body became a ledger of survival. Scars crossed scars until his skin looked less like flesh and more like weathered stone. His ribs had been broken and set badly. One shoulder never rose as high as the other. His left hand trembled in winter. His back carried the memory of a blade that had almost found his spine. Yet every wound that should have ended him hardened something deeper. Pain became instruction. Fear became irrelevant. Flesh became a temporary material wrapped around something more stubborn. At the center of every battle, when others surged forward chasing glory, the Guardian remained where failure would begin. He stood at gates, at bridges, at narrow roads between burning hills. He stood where wounded soldiers crawled behind him. He stood where children escaped through smoke. He stood where commanders pointed and said,
"Hold there or everything ends."
And he held. But endurance has edges. No will, however vast, could completely silence the body. His bones ached even when no enemy struck him. His breath shortened. His hands stiffened. His scars pulled at him like chains beneath the skin. He understood then that the body was a wall built from mortal clay. And all walls, eventually, remember gravity. So he sought the alchemists, not for conquest, not for speed, not for healing, for permanence. The alchemists laughed when he first explained what he wanted. They were accustomed to soldiers begging for sharper senses, faster blood, stronger limbs, or a cure for wounds earned through carelessness. They brewed fire for berserkers, clarity for duelists, and false courage for nobles afraid of dying in public. But the Guardian asked for something they had never been asked to make. He did not want power that moved forward. He wanted power that remained. The oldest among the alchemists listened. She had once been a fortress engineer, before glass, herbs, and mineral spirits became her craft. Unlike the others, she understood the request. She knew that a wall did not defeat the storm by chasing it. A mountain did not conquer the sea by striking back. There were forces in the world that could not be overcome by aggression. They could only be denied passage. For 7 years, the Guardian gave her everything he had learnt. Fragments of shields shattered against him, dust from fallen battlements, splinters of ancient bark from trees that had survived lightning strikes, iron scraped from armor that had failed around living men, powdered stone taken from walls that had held until every soul behind them escaped. But the final ingredient could not be gathered from ruins. It had to be distilled from conviction. The alchemist made him stand inside a circle of engraved stone, while siege hammers struck pillars around him. She made him breathe beneath crushing weights. She made him listen to the sounds of collapsing structures and name which part would fail first. She made him hold a stance until his muscles screamed and his mind began offering lies disguised as mercy. Rest, move, yield, fall. He refused them all. Not with rage, with patience. At last, the alchemist shaped a vessel for the draught. It was smooth and translucent, curved like a shield drawn into liquid form. Its glass was not clear but faintly jade, as if some ancient stillness had been trapped inside it. Around its neck, she set bands of dull iron etched with the geometry of pressure, dispersal, and weight. Inside, the bruise settled like liquid earth. It was dense, mineral-heavy, veined with dim iron light. Sediment moved through it slowly, as if stone had been taught to flow but had never forgiven the lesson. The alchemist placed the vessel in the Guardian's hands.
"This will not heal you,"
she warned.
I did not ask to be healed.
"It will not make you swift.
I did not ask to be swift.
It will not save you from choosing where to stand."
The Guardian looked at the draught.
That is the only part that matters.
And so, the Bastion Draught was born. The first sip turned his blood heavy, not sluggish, not weak, heavy. His heartbeat slowed, but each pulse landed with the certainty of a hammer striking deep foundation stone. Heat spread through his chest, then sank into his bones. His breath lost its tremor. The world around him sharpened, not by becoming brighter, but by becoming distant. The second sip turned his lungs to iron. Every inhale felt deliberate. Every exhale settled him further into himself. He could feel the ground beneath his boots with impossible precision. Cracks in the stone, buried roots, the pressure of old water beneath the soil. The earth no longer seemed to hold him. It recognized him. By the third sip, something changed that no witness could properly describe. He did not grow larger. His skin did not become stone. No plates of armor erupted from his flesh. He remained a man, scarred and breathing. Yet the space around him altered. A falling cup struck the ground near his feet and rolled away before touching him. Dust, drifting through torchlight, curved subtly around his shoulders. When the alchemist reached out and pressed 2 fingers against his chest, she felt not flesh resisting her, but direction itself refusing to continue. The Guardian stepped outside. The tests began. Blades no longer cut cleanly. Their edges dragged, slowed, and glanced away as if meeting layers of unseen resistance. Arrows lost certainty before reaching him, their paths bending by fractions, then by inches. Hammer blows landed with deep sound, yet their force spread across him like waves breaking against a cliff. He felt pain. That surprised him. The draft had not removed suffering. It had reorganized it. Pain no longer entered him as panic or damage. It arrived as information, flattened into structure, absorbed into the whole. The alchemists watched in silence. The younger brewers whispered of invincibility. The Guardian corrected them.
No,
He said.
not invincible.
He lowered his shield and planted his feet.
Immovable.
That was the draft's truth. It did not make a warrior unstoppable. It made him impossible to displace. At first, the cost seemed almost merciful. The Guardian moved more slowly after drinking. His steps grew measured. His strikes lost urgency. He could not rush across a field or chase a retreating enemy. When he turned, his body responded with the deliberate weight of a gate opening on ancient hinges. The younger soldiers mocked it. They wanted speed. They wanted fury. They wanted power that lunged, burned, and overwhelmed. The Bastion Draught offered none of that. It did not reward ambition. It enforced endurance. Those who drank it without understanding became trapped by their own impatience. They raised the flask expecting dominance and found restraint instead. Their limbs grew heavy. Their attacks dulled. Their instincts screamed for motion while the draft demanded commitment. Some panicked, some fell. Some survived only long enough to curse the vessel for refusing to make them heroes. But those who understood became something else. A shield bearer held a bridge for 3 days while refugees crossed behind her. A wounded captain stood beneath falling arrows and gave his soldiers enough time to reform. A nameless defender blocked the doors of a burning hall until every child inside had escaped through a cellar passage. None of them conquered. None of them advanced. They endured. The Guardian watched them and understood the danger more clearly than any alchemist had. The draft did not merely strengthen the body. It taught the soul a preference. Stillness began to feel like safety. Movement began to feel like betrayal. Each use rooted the drinker more deeply into the idea of remaining. The body remembered the comfort of weight. The mind began to distrust change. The heart, once driven by purpose, risked becoming loyal only to position. The Guardian felt it within himself. When battles ended, he sometimes remained standing long after the horns had sounded victory. When comrades called his name, he heard them as if from behind thick walls. He could move, but the act felt increasingly unnatural, as though leaving a place undefended was a kind of sin. The alchemist warned him.
You must remember why walls are built.
To stop what must not pass.
No,
She said.
to protect what must continue.
He did not answer, because a part of him already preferred the wall to the lives behind it. The final siege came under a red sky. By then, the Guardian was old in the way battle makes men old before time can claim the credit. His hair had gone iron grey. His hands were thick with scar tissue. His walk was slow, and every joint carried weather inside it. The city behind him was not grand. It had no golden towers, no eternal monuments, no king worth dying for. It was a place of masons, glassworkers, farmers, children, and tired soldiers who had survived too many banners. Perhaps that was why he chose to stand there. The enemy arrived with engines large enough to hurl carved stone through the sky. Their first assault broke the outer towers. Their second shattered the western gate. By dusk, smoke covered the streets, and the walls the Guardian had once helped repair trembled under relentless force. Commanders shouted for retreat. Priests begged for mercy. The remaining defenders looked toward the breach and saw an army pouring through it like floodwater through a cracked dam. The Guardian walked forward alone. In his hand was the Bastion Draught, not full, not new. The glass was scratched, its iron bands worn by years of use. Inside, the dense, earthen liquid moved slowly, veined with a glow like buried metal beneath ash. He lifted it once. The soldiers behind him understood. Some pleaded for him not to drink. Others bowed their heads. The alchemist, now older than anyone else in the city, stood at the edge of the smoke and watched the man she had helped transform. He drank deeply. The world slowed. His pulse sank. His breath became iron. His feet found the broken ground at the center of the breach, and there he stopped. He did not advance. He did not retreat. He simply stood. The first wave struck him like a storm striking a cliff. Spears bent, blades glanced aside. Shields crashed against him and recoiled. Men expecting resistance found denial instead. The force of their charge spread outward, splitting around the place where he stood. A second wave came, then a third. Arrows darkened the smoke, but their flight faltered near him. Some curved away, some fell short, some struck and broke without piercing. Stones from collapsing walls thundered down, only to split their force around an invisible geometry of defense that no eye could see and no weapon could name. The Guardian's stance deepened. His breath slowed further. His presence became weight. Behind him, people fled through the eastern roads. Children were carried, wounded soldiers dragged one another away. The city emptied itself of everything that could still become tomorrow. And still he stood. By midnight, the enemy no longer tried to pass him. By dawn, there was no army left at the breach. Only ruin, only smoke, only silence. When the sun rose, the city was gone. Its towers lay broken, its gates were scattered into blackened fragments. Streets had collapsed beneath fire and siege stone. The walls that had once promised safety were reduced to jagged memories. But at the center of the ruin, there remained a single untouched circle of ground. Within that circle, dust had not settled. Ash had not crossed. Blood had not entered. The stones were cracked everywhere except beneath the Guardian's feet. He stood there still. Those who returned days later found him motionless at the breach, his shield lowered, his head slightly bowed. No wound had killed him. No blade had found his heart. His body remained upright, preserved by the weight of its own refusal. They called his name. He did not answer. The alchemist approached last. She touched his arm and felt warmth, but not life in any meaningful sense. There was breath, perhaps, or the memory of breath. There was a heartbeat, or the echo of one trapped deep beneath layers of mineral certainty. He had become what he had asked to become, permanent. The flask lay beside him, empty except for a final trace of dense sediment clinging to the glass. The alchemist picked it up and wept, though none could say whether she mourned the man, the city, or the terrible success of her craft. In the years that followed, the untouched circle became a place of pilgrimage. Warriors came to kneel there before battle. Builders came to gather dust from its edge. Cowards came hoping to become brave. Rulers came hoping to turn men into walls. Most misunderstood the lesson. They saw only what had not broken. They did not see what had been lost. The Bastion Draught did not vanish. No vessel shaped by such refusal could remain empty for long. Some claimed the alchemist refilled it with the last sediment scraped from the untouched circle. Others said the flask filled itself whenever someone chose to stand between destruction and the defenseless. There were stories of it appearing in sieges, in mountain passes, in burning halls, in places where retreat would save the body but doom everything behind it. Those who lifted it felt the same quiet certainty settle into their bones. Nothing passes, nothing breaks, not here. But the draft never lied about its price. It gave no speed, it granted no escape. It did not sharpen rage or feed ambition. It made every step heavier, every hesitation more dangerous, every commitment more absolute. To drink from it was to accept that power did not always surge forward. Sometimes power rooted itself in place and dared the world to move it. Yet the oldest warnings remain carved into the iron bands around the flask. A wall without purpose becomes a prison. A shield without memory becomes a tomb. Endurance without love becomes only stillness. Those who drink from the Bastion Draught inherit more than resistance. They inherit the Guardian's final question, the one he could no longer answer when silence claimed the battlefield. Will you become the wall? Or will you remember why walls are built? For the draft does not choose the ground. It does not name what must be protected. It does not decide when standing firm becomes surrender by another name. It gives only the weight. The choice remains with the one who drinks. And somewhere, in the ruins of a city no map remembers, a motionless figure still stands at the center of an untouched circle, holding back a war that ended long ago. Not dead, not alive, not defeated, not free. An eternal defense without purpose, a fortress given flesh, a warning in the shape of a man.